Welcome. My name is Leanne Velchich, and I'm a solution designer from Aquam Consulting. We are an Infor channel partner who have been collaborating together with the Infor Pathway Cloud team to develop a fully integrated rates modeling solution for the LGA community. Our solution is developed using Infor EPM software, which is bundled in with Infor OS when purchasing the cloud version of Pathway. Infor OS allows us to have a complete two-way integration between Pathway and EPM. For rates modeling, this removes the need for manually copying and pasting of data in Excel spreadsheets, eliminating the inherent risks that introduces. Any parameters and calculations used to populate the model are also auditable and stored within the system. Our solution allows you to create multiple what-if scenarios for comparison purposes that can be viewed side by side before deciding on which version becomes the final budget. I will now go into the application and show you a walkthrough of the model we have built to date. Please note that this is currently a work in progress. We understand that there is a lot more complexity to add to the model to accommodate each council's unique approach to calculating rates. As we get more feedback from the early adopters program and continue to add more functionality to the system, it will continue to become more sophisticated. To start, we will use the navigation panel on the left to access the first step in the modeling workflow, importing data. There are two options to load data into EPM. Using the integration which pulls property data directly from Pathway, or by loading manually through a tab-delimited file. The manual import might be used to model new developments or subdivisions in Excel that have not already been created in Pathway. For today, we will use the direct integration. We see a progress dialog open that will indicate when the update is completed. This screen also holds an audit trail of the details of each data load. The next step in the workflow allows you to see what property data has been imported. Here, new associations can be made between the newly imported properties and assessments by right-clicking on either. From the right-click, selecting the Add option will open a dialog. As this dialog was accessed from the assessment number has defaulted. The remaining details can then be entered by selecting the property, rate type, and entering the valuation. Finally, selecting Add will create the association. We can now see that property has been added to the assessment. The next step considers fields which apply generally to the rates calculations. Here, we can see some fields are highlighted yellow. These indicate data entry fields where values can be manually adjusted. At the top, we can see a field to enter the minimum rate amount to be charged to properties. There is also a field for entering the rate in the dollar levy amount. This could be any levy that is relevant to your council. In the middle, we have two fields which relate to the different rate types. Firstly, the percentage increase of the valuation for the properties in that rate type. And secondly, the cap on the rates to increase from the prior year. At the bottom of the report, there is the workings for the target revenue the model needs to generate. New fields can be added using the plus icon and edited using the shaded field. If a change has not been saved, the warning banner will appear. Press the Save icon to apply the change. Next in the workflow, the rate in the dollar is calculated. There are two key inputs which drive the calculation to propose a rate in the dollar by rate type: the weighting and the details of properties per rate type. The valuation of each property is calculated automatically by the system, while the weighting is a user-inputted field. The inclusion of a weighting allows you to ask the system to propose, for example, a rate in the dollar for residential properties, which is double that of commercial shops. Again, there is a warning banner when fields have not been saved. The step in the workflow is to directly overwrite the rate in the dollar. We will skip this for the time being and jump straight to calculating the model. This is the final step, which applies the entered inputs to calculate against the model. We see a dialog with progress updates and a notification when it is completed. We can then jump to the dashboard, which shows a high-level view of what the model has calculated. On the left, we see the target revenue we calculated in the reference data screen against the projected revenue to be collected by rates. The pie chart shows the split of this projected revenue per rate type. On the right, there are some further details about the levy charged and the minimum rate applied. While this is good for a high-level overview, we have a detailed report to drill into an assessment and property basis. This report shows us a breakdown of each assessment and property that has been loaded. On the right, the columns show the valuation imported from Pathway, the new valuation taking into consideration the increased percent, the calculated rate, an indicator as to whether this was the minimum rate applied, the levy, and the total charge. The columns here for service charges and rebates are features under development and will be added in a future version. Another future feature is including an integration back to Pathway data when clicking onto an assessment. Now that we have a base, we can start to model what-if scenarios. To do that, we first need to copy the data in our first scenario into another one. Navigating to the version copy report, we can select which scenario we are copying from and to. Again, there is a dialog which shows the progress of the transfer. Now that we have data in scenario 2, we can navigate back to the modeling workflow, this time jumping directly to managing reference data. Using the filters, ensure the working scenario selected is scenario 2. We can then start to make changes to these fields for the modeling. Let's change the minimum rate here to 3,500 and update the percentage increase for residential to 4. This time, rather than changing the weighting for the rate in the dollar, I will show you how to overwrite the value directly. The table on the left shows the default value that was calculated, with a field next to it to overwrite that value. When they are changed, an icon will appear on the right. To copy back to the default, use the copy icon. Here, let's make a small change to the commercial shop rate in the dollar. Once all changes for the scenario are completed, recalculate the model using the Recalculate Rates screen. We can then view the outcome in the dashboard as before. Alternatively, We can jump to the comparison report to start comparing between scenarios. Again, ensure that the correct scenarios are applied in the filter. We can now see a comparison of the scenarios 1 and 2. Here, we can see that the increase in the minimum rate and rate in the dollar have changed the projected revenue. We can also drill into each rate type to compare between the scenarios. As mentioned, this is currently a work in progress. In addition to the mentioned features in development for handling rebates and additional charges, we are looking to add functionality for an approval process and exporting back to Pathway. That concludes the walkthrough of the current rates modelling system. For any further inquiries, please reach out to the Aquam team using the contact form on our website. Thank you again for your time.